Welcome back, Irish fans. Breaking Down Braves Boys podcast. Notre Dame drops one on the road to Wake Forest, their last quad one opportunity of the regular season in all likelihood. And not too much shame in this one, but in the end, Notre Dame didn't do enough good things to win this game. They hit 14 threes and still lost. In past years, Mike Bray's put an emphasis on you hit 10 threes, you have a really good chance to win. And if you hit 14 threes, I don't know what the rule is for that one, but you'd like to think that you have a pretty good chance, but outside of three-point shooting, Notre Dame didn't do enough good things to win this one, and they lost on the glass. They weren't playing at the pace they wanted to. We're turning it over more than likely, more than they have in the past, even though I think the pace likely dictated that a little bit. They couldn't get a stop when they needed to. They couldn't hit the big shot, which default Cormac Ryan that much. It's just rimmed out. I thought it was good, but didn't go. But the point being that Notre Dame didn't do enough good things to win this game, and it's kind of the opposite of what we've had this year with Notre Dame. Throughout the year, even when they haven't had their best offensively, they've kind of done enough on the glass, done enough on the defensive end, moved the ball well enough to kind of escape some of these games. But Wake Forest is a different animal. It's a much bigger team that's going to really challenge you down low. And Notre Dame didn't have enough outside of three-point shooting to win this game. The lead, you could kind of tell, was going to be hard to keep just because of everything mounted against them. The rotation really wasn't ideal. 7 guys at this pace. You can play 7 guys. It's tough at this pace, though. They were turning it over, like I said, losing on the glass, having a tough time kind of controlling Wake Forest bigs, and Paul Atkinson was in foul trouble, which was also huge. Notre Dame was dying off the 3-ball largely, and the one guy who can kind of get you out of that was in foul trouble all afternoon. I think he did a nice job not picking up a foul in the second half, but pretty much the entire first half he didn't have Paul Atkinson, and that definitely made an impact on this game. And Atkinson wasn't bad today. Like looking outside the sunshine instead of pitch black, but Atkinson had 11 points, 5 for 8 from the field. 5 rebounds wasn't all that bad, but when he's the only guy competing with that kind of size down low, they got 3 big guys on the court: Mucius, Laveria, and Walton. They got 3 big guys on the floor, and then you got Alondas Williams, who is also being utilized in the post. It's a tough matchup for Notre Dame, and I think this could have been a lot more ugly if they didn't shoot the way they did. They didn't really have anything going outside of that today, but credit to their guys. They hit shots today, and if you hit shots like that against most teams in the ACC, outside of probably Duke, Wake Forest, you beat them. And you probably beat a lot of them handily. Even like UNC, you probably beat handily. Miami, you probably beat by a good amount. And Notre Dame just couldn't get that done today because of partly the matchup and partly because of them just not really getting what they wanted to outside of open looks from 3. But overall, not a horrible performance by Notre Dame. It's not going to kill them in the metrics. They're still probably in the top 3 of the ACC standings. Wake Forest a few games behind them, and that's what Notre Dame's 3rd loss in the league, that's the 4th loss in the league. Sorry, but Notre Dame didn't play all that bad today. This isn't going to kill them in the metrics. It's not going to kill them in the net. It's not going to kill them in the ACC standings. Not too much to be ashamed of in this one. Just couldn't get it done in the end. And it's what happens sometimes. It's college basketball. John Rothstein says for a reason it's anarchy. So not a horrible performance by Notre Dame. And they almost found a way to win this one on the road and couldn't. At the end of the day, we got to remember it's a quad 1 game for a reason. And we saw that Wake Forest is a really tough team. And this is not the Danny Manning Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They play really hard. They have a lot of size. They have really good guards, and they make it tough on you. And we saw that today against Notre Dame. Going into the players, Prentiss Hubb I thought was really solid. I think Prentiss Hubb was a lot of the reason Notre Dame was able to kind of keep their head above water, even when Wake was making counter runs. Had a few nice buckets throughout the second half to kind of keep them ahead. A few nice finds to really get them going. And didn't show up all that much on the stat sheet. Had 10 points, 6 assists, not too bad. Talk about a tongue twister. That's 6 assists. 2 for 7, 4 for 10. Not all that great on the stat sheet, but Hubb scored when they needed him to. And it's about what you're going to get from Prentiss Hubb at this point in his career. He's going to score when you need him to, and it's really what you can ask for. They got a good look at the end of the game. It wasn't Hubb, and I don't fault him for not scoring there, but not horrible for Prentiss Hubb. I'll take that performance from Hubb in the tournament. I'll take it any point in March. He was okay today. Found guys, made some big plays down the stretch, and if they had won this game, Prentiss Hubb would have been a big part of it. So solid performance by him. Can't fault him too much. He got mismatched a little bit on Laveria, and Laveria was really the answer for Notre Dame this game. Kind of the guy they don't want to see, especially when you can't play Nate Laszewski at the 4. I think that was a huge part of this game, was that Nate Laszewski couldn't play the 4 until pretty late in the second half just because of Atkinson being in foul trouble. Notre Dame was much better equipped to beat Wake Forest if they had Nate Laszewski at the 4, and they could have used him defensively at the 4. I think that was the much more preferred defensive lineup for Notre Dame, especially if Nate was healthy. I think that would have been ideal if Nate could have been your 4 defensively. He would have guarded Laveria, and then you could have got Mucius guarded by, say, Dane Goodwin, and then Atkinson would handle Walton down low. I think that would have been far and away their best defensive lineup, but they couldn't really use it just because Atkinson was in foul trouble. And that was also a big part of this game. But you can talk about officiating. You can talk about Atkinson being in foul trouble. You can talk about Cormac Ryan missing that 3, whatever. In the end, it comes down to Notre Dame not doing enough things well to win this game. And a lot of basketball isn't about scoring, and we saw it today. And that's why Notre Dame lost this game. Moving on to Blake Wesley. Man, talk about shooting. Blake Wesley was the face of that. 6 for 11 from 3. Probably his best straight-up shooting game at Notre Dame. 7 for 14 from the field, 50%. And then that looks like over 50% from 3. So really solid outing for him. He was getting in passing lanes. Didn't make all that many plays late, but, man, if you get 3 steals, 24 points, and 6 threes from Blake Wesley, you're going to take it any day. And he's really turned it on lately after that shooting slump, and I would expect him to continue to do that against some not great competition over the next few weeks. But really good outing for Blake Wesley, and they're going to need him in March. And if they're getting February Blake Wesley in March, I would take that. Good outing by Blake Wesley, and he was another huge reason they were in this game. You were thinking to yourself, oh, he hits 2 threes, and then he's heat checking a little bit, but they're still going in. You're thinking every time it goes up, man, that's a bad shot. Why'd he take that? And it goes in. So solid outing by Blake Wesley. Probably his best straight-up shooting game. Maybe his best straight-up shooting game I've ever seen of him. Just hit shots with guys in his face, hit open ones. Didn't look like he was rushing it, really. And I think that was the biggest key for him. Just really took his time, looked confident in his shot. Speaking of look confident in their shot, Cormac Ryan, man, he was – my points about Cormac Ryan that I had ready are kind of null because of that 3, but I thought he looked really confident shooting it. Obviously, you're going to get good defense from him, but Cormac looked really confident in all aspects, hit those 2 big free throws, and couldn't hit the 3 when they needed him to tie it. But, man, I'm fine with what they got from Cormac today. 12 points, 3 for 6 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he had some rough matchups defensively. Got torched a little bit early playing the 4 on that end. And you're not going to get a Cormac Ryan Duke performance with Blake Wesley and Dane Goodwin on the roster, improved Dane Goodwin on the roster. You're not going to get that. He's not going to get the pure volume to have a Duke-type performance, but I think if he had the volume that he had last year, he would have had that type of performance today. Really seemed like he had it, but in the end, what matters is that he couldn't hit the big shot, and he didn't. So, okay outing for Cormac. He was finding guys. He looked confident in his shot, and hopefully this doesn't derail his confidence down the stretch here. He had a good look at the end and couldn't hit it, but there's a lot more to basketball than the last shot, and a lot of people believe in the clutch thing. I believe in the clutch thing, but there's a lot more to the game than that, and I think that's kind of what we have to be cognizant of with Cormac Ryan. Obviously, he's got to hit that shot, and didn't, but I don't think he had a bad game whatsoever outside of that. And I think that's more of the story. Obviously, it's going to be a story that he missed that shot, but hey, it's going to happen. It's basketball. It's college basketball. A lot of big shots are going to be missed, and unfortunately for Cormac, a lot of them have been him this year, some from the free throw line, some from beyond the arc, but he couldn't hit it today, and let's just hope that he can in the future. Moving on to Dane Goodwin. Dane probably had his second worst offensive game of the year behind the Duke game. And it's a little concerning. His two biggest were against their two toughest opponents, but not super worried about Dane. To me, the bigger story is that they were kind of able to have, well, not kind of, they were able to have one of their best offensive games of the year without him really doing anything. He had that and one, but Dane Goodwin didn't hit a three. They had 14 threes. 0 of them were Dane Goodwin. And I think that's something to be proud of for Notre Dame. Dane didn't have it today. Couldn't really get any separation. Just got that and one. Didn't really give you anything else. And we all know Dane Goodwin isn't Notre Dame's best defender by any stretch. But, man, without him, without Dane Goodwin scoring, if you told me going into this game Dane would have 3, I would have thought they had no shot. And they were in this game. If Cormac Ryan hits that shot, they probably tie it. And Wake Forest has 3 seconds to score. Otherwise, we're going to OT. And if you're going to OT with Dane Goodwin having 3 points and you have a 41-point half in the first half, I'll take that any day. So going to need more from Dane when we get to a tournament setting. But I think the bigger story today is that Notre Dame was able to have that kind of offensive performance without him. Dane was also really good on the glass. Definitely not his best performance, but the bigger story is guys stepping up in his place. Not a good outing for Dane Goodwin, but hey, I like what I saw from other guys, including Nate Laszewski, who really showed off how tough he is today. I thought he was out of the game when he came up limping, but got back in, still had that knee brace on, definitely isn't 100%. But he helped to spot some minutes from Atkinson, which kind of kept Notre Dame in this game. If they didn't have him, they would either had to go really small against a big team, or they would have had to put zone in there cold. And Nate really helped Notre Dame out in a lot of ways. And me talking about Nate kind of impacting the game without scoring the last couple weeks came to fruition today. And I liked what I saw from him. Had 11 points, 3 for 4 from 3. And this is the Nate Laszewski that Notre Dame needs. They don't need him to be a 20-point-per-game scorer, but they're going to need him to play good defense, stay out of foul trouble, be aggressive, and hit shots when he's open. And that's what they got from him today. I don't think this is really on him. I think he was thrust into kind of a bad spot. He would have been much better suited playing the 4 defensively. And Atkinson's foul trouble didn't really allow him to do that. Atkinson was really good offensively today, got in double figures, and really could have helped him if he was on the floor more. But those 3 fouls early really killed him and really killed a lot of what Notre Dame was trying to do defensively, it felt like. But this can't go on Atkinson fully. They had a lot of stuff going wrong for him, but I think the foul trouble was something that kind of affected multiple areas. It affected the rebounding because they didn't have 2 bigs on the floor. It affected the defense down low because they didn't have 2 bigs on the floor. And kind of showed how valuable Atkinson is to this team. They were living and dying off the 3 ball without him out there, and it worked for a while, but when you don't have a guy who can get you out of that habit, then you're not in great shape. And Atkinson showed how important he is today. You got to keep him out of foul trouble in big games, and today they couldn't. We got to hope in March that they do. Otherwise, things go really wrong if they don't have Atkinson on the floor or don't have a second big on the floor. Atkinson is really important to this team, and we saw he can do stuff offensively against athletic bigs now. We saw it today against a big guy in Walton, and he did some good things offensively, did some good things on the glass, 5 boards, solid stat line from him, but you can't help but wonder what would have happened if he didn't have those 3 fouls in the first half. And credit to him for staying out of foul trouble in the second half and giving Notre Dame flexibility, but man, if they could have kept him on the floor that entire first half, that would have been awesome. I don't know. I really don't agree with them having him on the floor at the end. And a lot of people would say, oh, it's just because he got the foul. But normally I like kind of being aggressive and playing the guy with 2 fouls there. But things weren't all that bad with Nate out there. They were rebounding. They were doing some good things offensively. They were really spreading the floor. And I think they definitely could have lived for 2 more minutes with Nate out there. Even though he's not 100%, maybe that played into the decision. But I can't help but wonder if they could have sat Atkinson there, kind of conserve that foul. And, man, it didn't really come back to bite him all that much. But when he picked up that 3rd foul, I thought that was almost game. Even though they were up a lot at that point, it was really hard to see a way they could win this game if Atkinson was in foul trouble for the entire second half. And I agree with a lot of what Bray's done this year. I think he did a good job hiding them in the zone for a lot of this game. But man, that was a decision I did not agree with, putting Atkinson back in there. I feel like the risk was much higher than the reward of having him out there for the final 2 minutes. And ultimately, it kind of came back to bite him. Kind of didn't. But the problem I have also is that Nate wasn't on the floor with him. I would have got it if they had the two bigs on the floor, because I think that's what they were best suited as. But he was the only big on the floor. So they were still playing small ball. They were putting him in trouble, and it didn't work out for him in that instance. I think like I said, I think the risk was way higher than the reward of putting him back out there. But I don't want to rag on Atkinson too much. He's done a ton for this team. He did a lot for this team today when he was on the floor. And if they can keep him out of foul trouble, things could be a lot different in March than it was today. But last guy I have is Trey Wertz. Didn't see all that much from him today. This is kind of what they need from him. They need him to hit open shots, hit one. If he hit another one, it's a much closer game. Well, not a much closer game, but if he hits that one wide open three he had, 77 probably, with Notre Dame having the ball. And hey, that you can say that about any guy basically. If Dane Goodwin hit one of those threes, then Notre Dame would have been in a better spot. But Trey's going to have to hit open shots. He did that a little bit today. And if they can get in March, I think you're just going to have to hope that Trey hits open shots. And I have some faith in that he can do that. I don't think we're ever going to get a big stat line day from Trey. I think I've kind of given up hope on that. But if you can get him to hit a few open threes in a big game, then you'll take that any day. So solid outing for Notre Dame. I actually don't think they were all that bad. I don't think this is an embarrassing loss or anything, but it certainly doesn't help them. They're going to have to – gives them a little less wiggle room is what I'd like to say about this one. They're going to have to beat the Georgia Techs of the world. They're going to have to beat Florida State, now probably Pitt. All games they should win anyways, but gives them a little bit less flexibility. I don't really think they're going to get sent back to the bubble, even if they have one more bad loss. But it certainly doesn't help them, and certainly doesn't give them all that much wiggle room. If they lose to Pitt, a quad 4 game, I know I just said I don't think they'd be back on the bubble, but you'd certainly have to think about them being on the bubble. If they drop a game like that, and if you have another quad 1 win on your resume, it certainly helps you. So Notre Dame's probably going to have to get one in the ACC tournament to completely be safe. I think they're still in, even if they just went out regular season, the rest of the tough games. But if they really want some wiggle room and another good win on their resume, it's going to have to come in Brooklyn. And here we go, the ACC tournament. But I think this is probably the last chance they're going to have for a great win. Florida State's probably going to be a quad 2. I doubt it's going to be a quad 1. They'd have to move up like 20 spots. But overall, the one negative, well, there's multiple negatives from this. It's a loss. But the biggest negative is that they're not going to have another opportunity to do this. Otherwise, it doesn't kill them all that much. They're still fighting and kicking. They're still in the field, most likely. If a bracketologist drops them out from the 9 line all the way out of the field based on a quad 1 loss, they don't really know what they're talking about. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hope you guys enjoyed even after the loss, but I'll be back on Wednesday, hoping for a better show then. And thank you guys for watching. Go Irish, and be back soon. Getting into the home stretch of the season here. Should be fun to watch these last couple weeks of basketball. Peace.